Dorian. Item J3, Dorian, that is the resolution opposing youth access to marijuana. Dorian,
Yep.
present that one.
All right. So we have a resolution on the table here that I'd like to present. I'll go ahead and read it. And then we can have discussion, I suppose.
You want to read the whole thing out loud, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and read it.
Go ahead.
Whereas the Paso Robles Joint Union School District is committed to serving a diverse community of students in an inclusive, safe, and secure environment. I'll kind of skip some of that whereas language. Just is also committed to safeguarding the wellness of all students, having established policies by which staff work to ensure the well-being of the students that we serve. Whereas the Paso Robles City Council is currently considering local ordinances regarding the cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, testing, and retail sale of commercial cannabis per California state law. Whereas in its clinical report, counseling parents and teens about marijuana use in the era of legalization of marijuana, has documented numerous published findings indicating that cannabis use has harmful effects on adolescents and youth, citing a host of recent medical and scientific research studies to evidence these claims. The American Academy of Pediatrics references longitudinal studies that link marijuana to negative effects on the intellectual function and higher rates of mental health disorders such as addiction, depression, and psychosis. And whereas in its publication, Marijuana and Tobacco Use, the California Department of Public Health cites research showing that the highest rates of past month marijuana use among adolescents aged 12 to 17 were in states or jurisdictions that had legalized commercial marijuana, and that nationally the perceived risk of harm associated with marijuana use by adolescents is decreasing while the daily use is increasing among high school students. And whereas marijuana is addictive, particularly for youth, and whereas marijuana use is harmful to the developing brain, affecting the parts of the brain that influence pleasure, memory, thinking, concentration, sensory, and time perception, and coordinated movement. And whereas frequent youth users of today's highly potent marijuana lose an average of 8 IQ points, and whereas Surgeon General in 2019 issued a report reviewing THC concentrations found in dispensaries in the U.S., finding average concentrations between 17.7 and 23.2 in plant forms and between 23.7 and 75.9% THC in concentrated forms. The Surgeon General reported that the risks of physical dependence, addiction, and other negative consequences increase with exposure to high concentrations of THC. And the younger the age of initiation, higher doses of THC are more likely to produce anxiety, agitation, paranoia, and psychosis. And whereas in Colorado, where the recreational marijuana is legal and commercialized, youth use of marijuana is 50% above the national average, and marijuana-related traffic deaths increased 92% from 2010 to 14, while all traffic deaths increased only 8% during the same time period, whereas evidence that the commercialization of marijuana through commercial storefronts and cultivation would increase its availability and normalize its use, leading to increased negative health consequences, particularly among youth. And whereas Paso Robles Joint Unified School District is committed to actively supporting its students with wellness education and harm reduction counseling to address the harmful effects of cannabis on youth. Now therefore be it resolved that Paso Robles Joint Unified School District supports the prevention of access to marijuana and cannabis-related products through commercial cultivation, manufacturing, testing, and retail storefronts in an effort to reduce marijuana use by adolescents and the negative consequences to their health, to their families, and to the public safety that would follow. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby respectfully requests that any cannabis retail storefront, commercial cultivation, manufacturing, and/or testing business be prohibited in the city of Paso Robles.
Okay. Now to start off things, probably a motion and a second would be good, and then we'll go into the discussion. So Dorian, I suppose you
Yeah,
want to make a motion?
I would like to move that we adopt resolution number 2308 that I just read.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Dorian Baker, second by Kenny Enne to approve resolution number 2308. And now off to discussion. Tim?
All right. I read this the first time, and I said, yeah, I really get with that. But then when I was looking at the things that were used as examples, I think it really opened us up for legal action if something was wrong or whatever. That's not our venue. We are here to support the kids that we have and can do something about this. We have no power to make this happen. That's up to the city. And that's where I went ahead and looked at this a little deeper. I am a South Coast Writing Project fellow since the early 80s out of UCSB, and it's also with the National Writing Project. And we studied this type of format. It's called the mousetrap format. In other words, if you disagree with it, well, then you must agree with the opposite. And so when it's written in this format, it's not too good. Also, it misses a couple of quick things. First, I want to, well, this will go fast. Paso Robles Joint Unified School District is committed to serving a diverse community of students in an inclusive, safe, and secure environment. This is right off of the previous sheet. And we are concerned about opening retail storefronts, cultivation, manufacturing, blah, blah, blah. Our concern centers on the fear that more marijuana will be accessible to our students. Mrs. Baker has brilliantly, truly, outlined the physical and psychological damage modern marijuana can cause our students in her letter to the editor, 11/03/22 in the Paso Robles Press, and I really suggest you read that. Our district has always been, and this is what's important, this part is our purview. Our district has always been actively searching for any drug or marijuana sales and purchases at our school sites and immediately deal with them. More marijuana on the streets will only exacerbate this problem. But there are other problems that the city will have to be dealing with if they approve pot storefronts to exist in town. First, to protect the youth of our city, more police will need to be hired to monitor marijuana sales to ascertain that it's not sold to kids at these retail storefronts. Also, who will be certifying that their product is pure and not laced with fentanyl or other opioids? The city will need to develop and hire qualified people in a lab to ascertain that at city expense or face possible lawsuits. They pass it, they should be responsible for the outcome. So basically, I'm going to skip down to it. If the city does go ahead and do this, then by gosh, they better be responsible for the outcomes and pay for it, which means more taxation on us. I don't want that. But on the other hand, we have to protect our kids. The problem has been, since the 70s, that we have a black market that pushes dope and pot to our kids. And any way they can go ahead and sell their product, they're going to do. So, in fact, we just did what we just did in closed session on a subject that's similar to this. So the bottom line as this goes on, does our town have enough police to handle this, or will it need to expand at an expense of the citizenry? Yes, the city would be able to collect sales tax on the product. Good. But would it be enough to cover its liabilities if the council votes to approve such commerce? We'll get the money, but it won't go to fix our streets. So with that, I'm going to send this draft to the mayor and see what his reaction is. But I cannot say that it's the Paso Robles School Board unless we approve something of this nature. But it comes back to the problem. Our venue is not at City Hall. Our venue is dealing with what the citizens of our city decide on this issue. And if the citizen says, go for it, well, they've got some certain things they have to worry about. It's not up to us. All we can do is make a suggestion.
I had my hand, but Kenny had his up first.
Okay, Kenny? And then Frank?
Whether we send a letter up or not, I agree with Mr. Gearhart. All we're going to be able to do is make a suggestion. And that's really all we can intend to do. I look at this as a public safety issue. I did counter-narcotics operations for 2 years. I know how marijuana was bred in order to become more and more addictive. I'm going to address something Mr. Williams said 2 weeks ago that, this is politics. It's not. This is public safety. If out in Pleasant Valley in the middle of July, we decided we wanted to have big fireworks shows out in the middle of the rangeland, I'm sure CAL FIRE would have something to say about it. Same thing. We are making our recommendation. The county supervisors or the San Miguel Advisory Committee can say, thank you, CAL FIRE, for your interest, but we're going to tell everybody they can shoot big fireworks off in July. Not smart, but, it's their call. That's the people's decision, right? But it's our job, in my opinion, since we're closest to being the responsible parties for the kids, to voice our opinions and say, we think this is dangerous. Looking back, I was reading an article today. CVS, the drugstore chain, just settled a $13 billion lawsuit. They were sued over the opiate crisis. Now, I always scratch my head, why is the pharmacist being sued for fulfilling the doctor's prescription? Well, the lawsuit basically said it was because CVS was complicit in normalizing the use of opiates. Now, when you look at marijuana use, based off of the CDC and Psychology Today, says marijuana use, it makes it 7 to 8 times more likely that you're going to wind up using opiates. There's no clear delineation between whether marijuana is a gateway drug or not, but there's a lot of smoke and a lot of evidence that it does. And so with that, all we can do is say, we think this is a bad idea. And the city council may come back and say, thank you for your interest in national security. We're going to do it anyways. But we're on record at that point saying what we think is best for the kids.
Frank?
I'd like to respectfully disagree with Mr. Gerhart because he did use a phrase that I do agree with, and that is that the availability of marijuana legally in the city for recreational use, stores, et cetera, will exacerbate the problem, and that is in our purview. That's where I disagreed. I think this is very much in our purview, that as a school board and as a school, we need to speak out that this is a harmful substance to young people, young adults, and in reality, the brain isn't fully formed until about age 25. We're not telling adults what they can or can't do. You can get marijuana delivered into the city right now. But we're talking about making it even more accessible, and I think it's already too accessible for our students and for children that are vulnerable to this. So therefore, I'm in favor of this motion.
Nathan?
Okay, so a few points, if I may. I believe that, I said it last time, and I agree with Mr. Gerhart, that this is a decision that's being made at the city level. We are definitely treading water of slippery slopes when we start bringing in topics that are, one, not happening right now. We don't have to rush right now. We can let that play out, see what they're doing, and then if we chose to, or the board that is coming in, that's going to be here for the next 2 years with this topic, make that decision at that time, allow them to do so. Mr. Andy, you brought up my comment about this as not being about politics. My question to you is, have yourself or Dorian reached out to the city of San Luis and talked to them in the sense of how that dispensary that's in their town has impacted their schools?
You need Paso Robles?
Nope, San Luis.
Oh, San
San Luis has a dispensary in their town, and I'm asking if those that are for this feel that it's appropriate for the school to get involved. Have you reached out to the school, to a town that's our neighboring town, that has a dispensary that has, and whether or not that has directly impacted their call volume, their responses to it? And if the answer is no, and I'll wait for that answer, have any of you reached out to San Luis? Because they have direct connection to this. They have a dispensary there. They have schools.
It's a different culture down there. I'm worried about Paso Robles culture,
So,
not,
is your
not
answer no?
about, no, I have not
I
reached
asked
out
a
to them.
question. Okay. So then, in response to that, then I would say that this is somewhat political in the sense of if we're trying to rush a decision here, and we haven't done even local research, then we're missing an opportunity there. So I still feel that it is a bit political. It is a bit political in the sense of, I voted to allow this to go on the agenda because I respected your desire to do so. I felt that that was important that your voice be heard. I think that it would be more appropriate to table this until next month when we have the new members come in, have a discussion then. Allow us to see where the city's going with this. If the city is going to move forward with this, if it is something that is going to be something that is more prominent up front with us, it gives us a little more time to explore it. But I still feel that even though I'm not a cannabis user, I have no desire to do so. I do agree that there are definitely harmful impacts from it. I see it. I see it. However, for myself, that doesn't make me comfortable as a school board putting us out there saying that we as a school board represent everybody or the majority of our district and saying that, because I don't feel that that's the case. I think that if we were to poll everybody, we'd be pretty split, whether we like it or not. And so to make a statement saying one way or the other just doesn't feel right to me. So I'm going to be in favor of voting no on this, but I would be open to tabling it to next month and allowing the board members that are coming in, given that this is a fresh topic, not something we've explored before, not something that's come up in the past, we've had a lot of discussion on, to then discuss it at that time.
So, Lance, or anything?
Did we ever-
Do you want to say
Sorry.
anything, Lance?
I can say a couple things.
Yeah, if you'd like.
Well, just maybe. So I honestly don't think this is part of what the school board needs to be part of. I honestly don't. It's the same as, all the smoke shops and the vape smoke shops and everything else that are around. We should put out a resolution to close them all down or get rid of all of them, because the smoking and the vaping and everything that goes on with our students. And I totally get that we certainly don't want our young youth to be participating in the use of marijuana, and especially in the potency that it is now. But I just don't think that that's our job here. I don't see it, honestly, as a public safety issue. And if so, we're not here for the public safety, we're here for students, and yes, they are part of the public, but I don't see it that way.
Student safety.
So, I guess I'm not really in favor of a resolution coming from this board. Tabling it for the next board, that would be fine too. Obviously, they may have a different thought process, so, but that's just my 2 cents. Thanks.
I'll make a few comments. I had some doubts at the beginning whether this subject matter was even, I'll get to you then afterwards, Tim. I had some major doubts about whether this issue even fell within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. We took legal advice on that, and since the term subject matter jurisdiction is interpreted very broadly, our legal counsel felt that this still fell within the scope of our subject matter jurisdiction. None of us here want to see our high school students, let alone middle school students, elementary school students, smoking marijuana or eating edibles with THC in them, or drinking beer or smoking Marlboros. We don't want them to do any of those things that are reserved for adults. We have, of course, in this town, lots of liquor shops. You just go a couple hundred yards down that way, you hit Albertsons, there's liquor down there, there's cigarettes down there. The kids can't buy them, of course, just like they couldn't buy them in any marijuana in any shop that might be allowed here, and I guess they couldn't call for distribution either. I don't know how that distribution system works. But the marijuana is now a legal business in California, just like selling alcohol, just like selling cigarettes. So I prefer to leave the decisions about these matters to the bodies that are called upon to really decide the substance of them, be it the state legislature, be it the city council in the permitting process for stores. I'm also concerned about this board here, which is a lame duck board. We've only got a couple more hours, if at most, hopefully less, in which we are still attending to matters here. This is the first time this one has come up, this issue has come up before this board. I would like to leave it to the next board for them to figure out. Also, the weight of the statement. If we were to adopt this resolution now, the resolution has no regulatory effect whatsoever. It's just a statement of opinion, a position statement. A position statement from a lame duck board is relatively worthless compared to a position statement of a new board where the members would be in office for the next 2 years. Finally, I was concerned about how broad the language was in this resolution, especially the operative language. After all the whereases, we go, now therefore be it resolved. The PRJUSD supports the prevention of access to marijuana and cannabis-related products through commercial cultivation, manufacturing, testing, and retail storefronts. That's the operative language. The next language in there, in an effort to reduce marijuana use by adolescents, that's more explaining the reasoning for that. But the operative language itself is in favor of a ban on marijuana for everybody in the city. That's obviously broader, it may have been broader than what was intended too, but that's at least the effect of the language here. So for all those reasons, I'd support a motion to table, and if a motion to table is not made, or if a motion to table is made, seconded, and is not passed, then I'll vote no on the resolution itself. So, Frank, now. And then,
There's
Tim,
one of-
did you want to say something also?
There was
Frank, okay.
one other element I wanted to mention, and that is the city of Paso Robles did a survey among the citizens that came out much in favor of having cannabis shops. Unfortunately, only 4% of the population responded to that survey, so that's a very minority survey. But nevertheless, if Dorian were amenable to it, I would make the motion that we table this till the next full board meeting.
If you would like, you can make the motion to table. You can see if you get a second. And that motion, we would then vote on, and if that motion passes, it's tabled. If it's not passed, then we go on to the substance of the
I so
motion.
move.
Okay. Does anyone second a motion to table?
I'll second it.
All right.
Okay. Second, so now.
Well, I
we're-
had made a motion, but I'd be willing
Yeah.
to make a substitute motion
that
to
it's-
second.
We're
We
sort
have
of,
we have a
having
first.
done this thing, we had a little
You're right.
fracas a couple
You're right.
meetings
We needed
ago
to support-
back.
either
But
amend your
it sounds like we're headed towards a motion to table.
We have a-
We have a motion to
In
In
table now.
reality, she would need to then change her motion because.
That would be, I
we-
think if you were
I made a
amending.
motion improperly while a motion was on the table.
No?
No, that's actually when motion
Oh,
tables
okay.
be made. Yeah, yeah.
Quick-
And
quick
when we
question.
went through this, what, our
Oh,
newly
you're right,
adopted
you're right.
slim down
Yeah,
rule.
you're right.
Robert's
Right, yeah.
Rules of Order,
That's
we
fine.
decided that the newest motion gets decided first. So we've got a motion to table that has been made by Frank Triggs, seconded by Nathan Williams.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Did, I believe the last meeting you said you were going to determine the time when this was going to come up in front of the council? Did I imagine that, or did we?
We thought we'd deal with it here after we knew more about the timing there, but we didn't find anything more about the timing, so it's, the agenda committee put it on the agenda here. Now
Dorian.
we've got it here.
Dorian requested it to be
No, I'm
placed.
talking about the decision by the city council.
No, we didn't.
In the new calendar years. when I was
Yes,
told.
yes, Tim.
Hello.
Tim, yes.
I was talking with our mayor, and Steve was saying that they were looking at sometime in January. So I think we would have time if we wanted to do that
Sounds like it to me.
just before that.
So, the motion to table is out there. Any discussion on the motion to table? If not, we'll vote on the motion to table. Kenny?
Aye.
Baker, aye.
Garrett, aye.
Gannon, no.
Triggs, aye.
Williams, aye?
Aaron, yes. So the motion to table passes 6-1. And this matter is then moved for the next board to be concerned about. Next item on the agenda. Camera and vape sensor security additions.